Happy July 1st, and sorry for the late start here. Just got a new format here. I go to webinar, and we're just trying to figure it out. So hopefully it's looks like everything's recording and everything's up and running. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah. Systems a go, everything is a go. The only thing I don't see is people on here, but I'm sure we will figure that out in just a second here. All right, so today, as I just had here on the screen, I showed you guys the syllabus for what we're working on, or have been working on, I should say. And if you notice on here, we have today being July 1st, we have the importance of listings, the 14-step listing process. This is an important module. This is one that has cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years by not having this right, by not knowing this information. And some of it seems basic, and it's exactly that. Some basic mistakes that were made that you don't think is a big deal that do become big deals when you don't get a listing and you don't convert, and you lose $15,000, $20,000 on a commission sale. And I've talked about this many times before, is that you don't want to practice in the field. You don't want to practice, at the kitchen table. You want to practice beforehand, and that's why training, that's why webinars like we're doing here today is so important for you to get that out of your way, so that when you actually at a client's home, when you're on a listing, you're able to convert and have a higher probability of converting that lead versus losing it for a dumb mistake, or maybe something that you thought should go a certain way and didn't go a certain way because you just didn't know. So we're going to cover some of those steps, Brian, here today, and really go over that. But also I wanted to start off by talking about the importance of listings. And Brian, I know that in the past we always kind of find it hard to believe that sometimes agents don't want listings or hate listings because they don't want to let the consumer down, or the house doesn't sell in a couple of weeks, they feel like a failure. And it's just easier working with buyers. You hear that a lot of times. So give me some thoughts on that, Brian, as far as.
Actually, I mentioned, we've talked through the years of agents that say, I don't want to work with listings, I'll just work with buyers. And when we start to poll them and find out why, I think you touched on it a little bit, Willie, is that because they're not confident in the way they have to compete for listings, right? It's the biggest asset, as we always say, that people are going to own, and they want to put those biggest assets with someone that takes this as a profession, not someone that treats it like a hobby. In order to do that, you have to be competitive. In order to be competitive, if you look at any profession, the ones that succeed, who are very successful, are the ones that put in the time, not only on the appointment, but all the prep work, all the preparedness. They're constantly educating themselves, going on trainings. You think of professional athletes. I always used to say this, Willie. Major League Baseball, right? These guys have been playing baseball since they were literally 8 years old, 9 years old. They don't just show up to the game, right? They're doing infield practice, they're doing batting practice, even though they've been doing this for years. It's because when they're in the moment and it's time to compete, they want to be prepared. And the best way to do that is by training and coming to practice and perfecting some of the things that we're going to talk about here. And that'll give you the confidence to go on these listing appointments and deal with sellers. And I think that's the biggest reason why a lot of agents don't want listings, because mentally they're not prepared to compete.
And let's talk about scaling too, right? Like as far as time goes.
So as far as time goes, if you have someone that has 10 buyers versus 10 listings, I take the 10 listings all day long, because usually it's the initial appointment and then servicing the calls after that. Where with 10 buyers, you have to block out certain times, you have to drive, every showing, you're committing, depending on the commute, anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour plus of your time. So from a choice management, time management perspective, you're going to leverage yourself way more with listings than you are with buyers.
Yeah, and I see that so often that, you can only work with so many buyers at once, right? If you had 20 active buyers going, it's just being, right. You can't work that, right? You just can't work that to scale where you could with listings, because once you go out to their home, a lot of times you don't need, there's no need to be there every day or showing them every day like you would when work with buyers. All right, so let me just get this other document up here. And again, I apologize for not having it.
Well, while you're doing that, while you're pulling the document up, I want to hear from the audience in the chat. Put some of your biggest hesitations on working with sellers you're taking listings in there. Try to validate what we're saying. Is it a confidence issue? Is it that you just feel that you struggle with your presentation? Maybe you just don't like the pressure of selling houses. What is it? Put it in the chat for later on. We'll circle back to it after we get through our notes here. This way we're going to find out if we really have an audience, Willie.
No, we do. We have a great audience, but it is true, right? Well, what's your biggest holdup? Some will say it's actually getting listings, right? How do you even get in front of these people? Which is definitely a concern for some people for sure. All right, I think I have it down now. All right, why don't we go ahead and we'll jump in and you guys think about those along the way on here. We're going to go through the worksheet that we send out to you guys, so you guys have that. All right, and
it's like driving a new car.
It really is. It's I don't know, as my wife always says, why did I have to go and change it? Right? Why did I have to go and change it? So hopefully you guys could see, what do you see on your screen, Brian?
Nothing yet. Let's see. Nothing.
All right, I got it. I got you. Hang on. There we go. All right. All right, we're going to go through these quickly for you guys, just so you kind of get an idea of what this is all about. And I don't care if you're a new agent, an agent in the business a year or two. I don't care if you've been on 100 listings. You're going to learn something and be able to be reminded of something here for sure. And if you have other things you want to add, I'd be more than happy to hear those too. We don't have all the answers for everything, but we're always looking to learn as well. But we kind of just talked about this before, going into the whole process of the 14 steps. We did talk about the importance of listings. It's going to create more exposure, bring you more buyer sales. I was thinking about just being in Florida last week, having a listing, ended up picking up like 5 other sales from it. And that was at an open house. We got the listing, did an open house, and then pulled in 2 more listings, 2 buyers out of it. And you could expose yourself to so many more people when you have a listing and actually market that listing correctly. It brings on more buyers and seller leads for sure. You use it as a marketing vehicle, like I mentioned, right? It's a great tool for that. But each listing that you have, if you market it correctly, should produce at least 1 qualified buyer. They might not be interested in a home, but they may look to buy something else. So if you market it correctly, you drive traffic to that listing, it'll help you pick up other qualified buyers. And again, also sellers. But it gives you the ability to leverage your time more effectively, like I mentioned before, right? So we recommend when working with listings to follow this process of the 14-step process. And we're just talking about it today. Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. What do we mean by that? Cost meaning commission, right? If you charge them whatever, right? We're not going to get into commissions because we have other companies here. But if you charge them 2 apples, 3 apples, 5 apples, whatever that may be, that's a cost to the consumer. And it's only an issue in the absence of value. So if you're not showing them your value through your marketing efforts, through your strategic negotiating skills, those type of things, if you're not showing them that value, you're not going to get and command the type of commission that you can get, because now you just fall in line with everyone else as a commodity. So, Brian, I'll start with number 1 because this is my favorite. Actually, I'll start with 1 and 2 because this is my favorite. Number 1, being on time. People are like, oh, that's so basic. Isn't that just, the way it should be? No, there's a lot of people and a lot of agents that have lost listings because I know I've been on the side where people have said, I'm not going to work with that person because they showed up late. Time is in a direct correlation to integrity, right? Punctuality is tied into integrity. And that's something you guys can look it up and take a look at that. But it is so true. Like if you don't have the respect for someone else's time, that's a huge turnoff to a lot of these people, especially those that really value being on time all the time on anything they do. And then you just show up 10, 15 minutes late. That's not a good look, right? So if you're going to be late, even if you're going to be 5 minutes, before, and you already know 10 minutes, 15 minutes before that you're going to be late, let them know sooner than later. Don't let them know at 2:05 that you're going to be late. They already know that, right? Have the respect of saying, hey, it's about 1:15, I'm in traffic, whatever it may be, but I'll be there as soon as I can, just so they know, because they're pacing. They're looking out that window. They're pacing, 1:15, and then 1:05, and then by 2 o'clock, they're upset. Where is this guy? Where is this lady? Right? Where the hell are they? And by 5 after, 10 after, you lost them. They're upset. They're ups, you know. And if you just show up, hey, how you doing? You know, and don't even say you're sorry you're late. That's even worse. But being on time is so important. When you get there, knock on the door, ring the doorbell, walk into home, introduce yourself. Obviously, nice firm handshake is always a good thing to do. Um, always ask if you could, if they like you to remove their shoes. Nothing worse than you showing up and having mud on your feet, wet shoes, even sometimes having the cleanest shoes that you can imagine. But the fact that you're walking in their house, in a household that doesn't walk in their home with shoes on without asking, is a big turnoff. I've seen it. I always ask. I've always had that, but I picked that up on a couple different listing appointments early on. That people were upset because, hey, yeah, he just came in here, he got mud on my floor, just came in here and didn't even take his shoes off. Bingo, right? That agent just lost it at that point. So now when I come in, I always ask. And for those of you who've been on listing appointments with me, you know that's true. And it's 50-50. Some say, no, absolutely not. You know, keep your shoes on. And sometimes you want to keep your shoes on, right? Because it's dirty or, you know, some houses that we walk into sometimes as real estate agents, it's amazing what we walk into. But for the most part, you know, you want to be respectful of them, not only of their time, but also of their home. And you want to always ask that question. So again, very basic stuff, but it's a game changer for you. All right, Brian, you want to do next too?
Yeah, really just going back on, real quick on a couple of those things that you did too is, sellers have a lot of anxiety. I like that you brought up the point that they're pacing, because what happens is that every minute you're late, you're building that wall that you have to try to bring down to get them to trust you and feel good about their decision, right? And Williams, you usually mention this with the 14 steps. We've been using this for years, but it's very important, even with the phone call ahead of time before you book the appointment, that you're doing things in a sequential order. The order that we're providing here in these 14 steps, if you do them out of place, it will backfire. For example, if you start to oversell and start to talk about pricing before you even, get to the house, or you start to go into other marketing details that might, like if you're doing it out of order, you're going to put that wall up or even eliminate yourself probably from contention. So, these steps that we were going over here, these 14 steps, they're strategically placed in the order that we've known and we've seen to be proven to work. And we've also seen it the opposite, right? Really, we've seen people do it out of order, and we've seen them either be self-eliminated or, hey, we'll let you know, we'll get back to you, thanks for that information. But you already gave them what they needed pretty much. If you taught them a price that they didn't have in mind, or maybe they're shopping on commission or rate. And to Willie's point, if you don't show them the value, you don't get in there, you're not going to earn that business on their biggest asset just from a phone call. So make sure you're doing these things in order. In addition to being on time, knocking on the door, when you get to the house, have a presentation. Bring a laptop or a tablet, set it down right away first, and then ask for a quick tour, and I do mean quick tour of the house. If you do or know anything about DISC personality training, if you're in a high I, you want to make sure that you're not sitting there giving them 2-3 hour appointment. On the flip side of that, if you know that someone's more of a just get to the point, I need to know price, commission right away, that's a high D characteristic. You want to make sure you're pacing the appointment appropriately. But setting the laptop down and putting it somewhere in a central location lets them know that I want to do a quick tour, and then we're going to come back and talk about a lot of different things. So if they start to ask you questions while they're showing you the house, like, so what do you think about the price? Or so what do you guys charge again? I'm going to get into that. That's why I brought my laptop. I got some great information to share with you, right? It kind of sets the tone for, let's go through, show me about the house, and then we'll talk about all that stuff afterwards. But that's why it's important to kind of do it in this order. So turn your laptop on, make small talk. You want to get to know them. I wouldn't even start talking real estate. Start talking about what's going on, in their world. Ask them what they're doing, for a living. If they have what they're doing for a holiday weekend, prime example would be this week. What are your plans? If you see something on the wall that you can make a connection with, oh, where do you guys like to go on vacation, whatever. You want to build that know, like, and trust factor in that small talk. But then very importantly, I'll do this one right here, is you want to get a quick tour, but bring a notepad or something to write. Even if you have no intention of writing detailed notes down, it tells them that you're listening to them, and what they have to say in the house is important, that you're taking it. If you just walk through the house and, yeah, I think I have a buyer for this, or yeah, nice, this, that, or you walk past certain things that are important to them and you don't even inquire about it, they're going to feel that, right? And again, it's all about trying to build that no trust factor and getting that wall to come slowly down. So by the time you get to the end of the presentation, they're more apt to talk about the important things like price and fees and so on. So if you hit it too early or out of order, it's going to backfire on you. If you want to take number 5, Willie.
Yeah, number 5, I mean, like Brian said, you want to definitely go through and write down notes and all that. The biggest thing here is that you want to make a mental note of any negative selling points, right? So you're just meeting these people for the first time, right? You're walking through their home and they're on edge. They don't know, is someone going to actually like my house? You'd be surprised. Could be the most pristine house, gorgeous house. Yep. I would say more people than not have less confidence that they'll get top dollar for their home than there is that are very confident and that overprice their home, right? Most of them are like, is everything okay? Is everything, perfect? And you want to make sure that when you're going through that house, that if there's something that's of a negative selling point that you want to point out, that you don't do it in an initial walkthrough. All right, you don't want to be walking around saying, "Oh God, you got a Stewart's next to you, right? You got a gas station across the street. This is going to be a tough sell. This is going to be tough. You got that commercial exposure. Oh, you got a school behind you. Geez, that's going to be pretty tough, right? Or you go in the backyard and it's non-existent. Wow, you got a really small backyard. A lot of families like backyards. Like that type of stuff does not take place when you're making that initial walkthrough. You write down little mental notes. I usually keep it on the bottom left corner of my pad of the negative things that I want to talk about, and then write off the things that I'm going through. But again, you want to do that for that specific reason. I can give you tons of examples, but I've been on appointments where I've had agents, point out cat smells. Do you own a cat? Wow, I can really smell it. I hate cats. True story. The guy said that. We got thrown out of the house. Different things like that. It could be the paint. It could be the carpet and being beat up, whatever it may be. Just take little notes. Here's a good thing, or one thing that you'll see, that the more appointments you go on, the more you'll see people will point those things out to you. Hey, Brian, what do you think about this carpet? Hey, that's, the carpet looks pretty good. Maybe we can get away with just a cleaning and maybe a stretch of the carpet without replacing it. But I'm going to put a note here for that. We could talk more about that. All right. They're going to point things out to you as you go through. Number 6, instead of pointing out all the negative things, compliment them on the condition of their home. Compliment them on the little things that they have, the space. Hey, this is a great home. It's got, the kitchen is great. It's got big bedrooms, big backyard, whatever it may be, finished basement. Do more complimenting than anything. All right. And again, if it's a piece of crap, there's only so much stuff that you can compliment on, but you definitely more of that positive reinforcement that they have a great home. Okay. And that's one of the things that, you'll say as you go through, that, this home will sell. This is a great home. This home will definitely sell. They want to hear that because they don't think it on their mind. So you want to use that and put more positive to anything, because if you use the negative side of it, again, you're going to lose that listing. All right. So making sure that you compliment them and let them know that they're going to be no problem selling this property. Hey, Brian, next to it.
Yeah, definitely, Willie. I think, compliments the way to go versus pointing out negative thoughts. And sometimes it's unintentional that we do it. You got to really catch yourself. It's almost the equivalent. I use the example of if you're dating for the first time, you meet someone for the first time and go, "Oh, is that a pimple on your forehead? That thing's huge," right? Like they know it's there, right? But now you just point it out, again, the wall goes up. Now you got to try to ease it back down. So you want to be complimentary, let them know everything sells. The other thing I try to do, Willie, is tell them what, like you said, they're insecure sometimes. They're like, "Oh, do I need to replace this? I need to replace that." A lot of times it's a waste of money to replace it, right? So, hey, I'm here to try to save you money. That's just throwing good money at bad. If it's that bad, it shows up in the feedback, that's something we can address later on down the road. But I wouldn't hesitate, obviously, if it's in decent condition. Don't ever throw a laundry list of, you got to fix this, you got to fix that, you got to fix this before you go on the market. Because what happens is they're like, gee, if I want to list with Willie, I got to spend $15,000 to get the house ready for sale, versus this person said, just put the sign up, right? So be complimentary, leave the negative thoughts later on. There'll be a point in time in pricing conversation to go over those as well.
A good line too, Brian, a good line that I use a lot of times too is, hey, my job is to go through with the eyes of a buyer.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be looking at things that buyers look at that think is a big deal. That's really not, right? Could be a stain in the ceiling, could be a carpet that's not stretched out. Could be a lot of different things, right? But my job for you is to go around and find out what these things are, and what little fix-ups that you could do that are not that expensive to get a better value and not to have a buyer think that way. But more importantly, is to show you what not to do to get top dollar for your home, right? Meaning, don't put all brand new granite countertops in, or quartz countertops in, or get all brand new carpeting. And because like Brian said, let the new buyer do that. They might not want carpeting, they might want hardwood floors or tile in that foyer. Why would you go and replace that? So little things like that. So all right, so where are you at, Brian?
This next one, number 7, is sit down at a table near your laptop and ask them, what are their movement plans? You want to try to establish motivation and timing. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned early on in my career, make it about them, not about you. As realtors, we tend to say, oh, we sold X amount of houses, or we have so many friends in this neighborhood, we did this and that. And I did that one time. I got really good at number 8, segmenting into our listing presentation. And I could talk about Miranda Real Estate Group and what we have to offer and everything. But what I failed to do is, before the presentation, ask this critical question. What are the 3 most important things to you in selling your home, and the company that you choose and the realtor that you choose to partner up with, right? And then I shut up and listen and write those 3 things down, because those 3 things are the things I want to focus on and keep bringing back to them when we start to segment into the presentation. And if you do the practice and the training on your presentations like we're talking about, you'll know what slides to highlight, which ones to skip over based on the answer to those 3 questions. And of course, they're going to ask you things like, well, you haven't told me the price yet, or what do you guys charge? Price aside, commission aside, what are the things that are important to you? You're going to hear things like communication. You're going to hear things like, marketing plans and different things like that. Great, because then you know what slides to really double down and home in on based on that feedback. And sometimes you're dealing with multiple decision makers. You don't want to just go off of a conversation you have with one of them. You want to hear from all the decision makers. So it'll help you enhance number 8 when you segment into your presentation. You should be armed with having an idea of their personality type, but having an idea of their timing, their motivation, and what's important to them outside of just price and commission. And you have a good presentation. If you practice it well enough, you should be able to demonstrate value in that presentation by homing in on those 3 things.
So good, Brian. That's a great point that you mentioned there, because a lot of these, especially now, I'm seeing so much competition with listings, right? So many times you go on a listing, more so than ever, where they're interviewing 3, 4, 5 agents. We had not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, 5 agents, right? Yeah. So what is it why are they interviewing so many people, right? Because here in upstate New York, we have a seller inventory shortage. So it's a very competitive market. Where in Florida, they don't have as many down there. So you don't really see that as much. But when you're competitive like that, Brian, like you said, I know that you're interviewing with a lot of people, and tell me the top 3 things that are most important to you when selecting an agent, and just let them tell you. And sometimes they'll say to you, I listed with another agent, or my friend listed with another agent. It was a nightmare, and they didn't do this, they didn't do that. Oh, tell me more, right? Get more of that information, because you want to know what they're fearful of. And a lot of time it could be commission, which is usually there, but more importantly, it's about, do you think my house will sell? What will it sell for? And what do I need to do to get it there? Right?
Communication, feedback, right? They weren't getting communication, they weren't getting feedback from it, or they were pissed off because agents were coming in and leaving doors unlocked or lights off. Like, you could have talked to those types of issues, and we all have those issues. But if you hear it from the seller, you can home in on things that matter to them, versus just talking more about ourselves and the company. You want to really allow them, like you said, to talk to you. The more they talk to you and tell you their concerns and their stories, the better it's going to make your presentation when you go into presentation. If you do the presentation right, you ask them, based on the presentation, everything that you see and saw, is there anything that I didn't answer with regards to those 3 things that we could circle back to? And we're going to do that training in a couple of weeks here. We're going to go through a demonstration on a listing presentation. But then you're going to segue. If the answer is yes, they want to move forward, then you segue into number 9 that Willie's going to get into.
Yeah. So again, not to throw you guys off, but the presentation will be in 2 weeks. So you're going to go through it. And what's the presentation go over? It's going to go over the condition of the home. We're going to reiterate that. We're going to talk about the marketing, and all the things that we do to get you top dollar for your home. And then the last piece of it is going to be pricing, right? Which is 90% of any great marketing plan is pricing it right. So we're going to go over that too with you, right? So that's what we tell them, and then we dive into the presentation. But for the purpose of this call, we're going to stick to, once we get done with the presentation, I'll ask them, so what did you think about the marketing? Wow, this was really great. Did the other agents show you that? 99% of the time, no, not in so much detail. You guys do a lot. Okay, great. Well, there's a big difference between what agents do and what they charge, and we want to make sure the reason why you're hiring us is to get top dollar for your home. And would you agree, more demand for your property, the more marketing that we do, the more eyes on your home, the more demand is going to create a higher price for your home. So that's what you're trying to create. Because if you go in there without a listing presentation and you're just winging it with a notepad, you're done. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, well, one more thing too, before going on to pricing. With the presentation, I would argue, even if it's someone that you came in on a referral, meaning your friends, your family, you come in, how you referred, you pretty much have it in the bag. You just have to walk in standing up straight. They're going to list with you anyways. I would say go through the presentation. Don't take your relationship for granted, because here's what. Yes, you're going to probably get the listing. That's not an issue. But once you're actually selling the property, if they're misinformed or you didn't take the time to educate them on the process, and that's pretty much what the presentation is, you're going to educate them on the process and the marketing, as Willie said, condition, all these different things. You're going to have to try to explain that as you're going through. And if it doesn't sell right away, that could be uncomfortable. If you show them that up front, you're actually preparing them to be a better seller, and they can sell quick. In other words, they'll have their house ready for showings. They'll understand why it's important to approve every showing. They'll understand the negotiation aspect of back and forth. They'll know what the attorney approval process is like, and so on and so on. And they'll know operationally from your company what to expect when. If you're saying, I got the listing, I don't have to go through all that, they already know who I am, that's fine. You're going to get the listing, but I'm saying it's going to be a smoother transaction if you take the time to go through the process of the presentation, educate your client.
All right, let's move forward on presentations done. Great.
You got to go up to number 9, Willie. I don't know if you got that up. Let me see here.
You see it?
Yep, now I see it.
Now you're going to pull out your cost market analysis, the summary. You're going to show them a range. Now you could do a one-line summary, which is nice to have on one paper, right? So you have your actives, you have your pending, you have your close. And you want to explain to the seller that you created the CM summary based on the number of comparables and number of homes around the area. Now you will show them inside the photos as well on step number 11, but you want to explain to them, like, here's the one-line summary, and explain the following. So active listings, see all these active listings here? These are important, Mr. Seller, because this is what our competition looks like, right? These are the homes that we're competing against, and we like to call this fantasy land. And the reason why we do that is because anyone can put whatever price they want, right? I see your house, this house here is 500. There's another one's 550, but you never want to price your house based on what another listing is on the market for, because they could put whatever number they want and it's not always accurate, and it's not always the actual true price of what they're going to get. So we call that fantasy land. A better indicator is when we see a pending listing. When you see these pending listings, we know what the house was actually listed for at the time that it went under contract. So let's say it started at 550, but then they did a price reduction down to 5.25, and then we ended up getting an offer. Well, that just shows 550 was too high at 30 days. Once they dropped it to 5.25 is when it actually went under contract. So we want to look at that 525 number as probably a better number to list your property at versus going too high at a 550 number. But overall, the closed sales, this is reality, right? This is where the actual home officially closed at, and this is really the best way to determine what your property is currently worth in today's market, because this is market value. This is exactly what a buyer paid for this property, and it's the best indicator of what your home is going to be worth. It's not active listing. It's not even pending, because it could have pended at 525 but sold at 485. But what it actually closed at's reality of what your home closed for, and that's what banks use. That's what appraisers use. And so I went ahead and took the liberty of showing you that. And then from there, Brian, on number 11, I'll just kind of go there. Yeah. You're going to take those 4 or 5 homes. You don't want to show 10 closing, 20 closings. Take the best 4 or 5 homes that you got from the close that match your seller's criteria, and then review the features, benefits of those closed properties, such as square footage, such as the sales price, days on market, number of bedrooms, number of baths. And I would actually go on and on your laptop or on your tablet, actually pull up, whether it be the Zillow or you pull up the raw MLS data, show them, go through the photos real quick with them. Hey, let me show you this one. Here's a photo. Here's the kitchen. Here's the bathroom. And they're looking at it and they're like, whoa, that's a beautiful kitchen, right? We were going to update ours, but we knew we were going to move, so we didn't put the money into it. All right, well, that's a $100,000 swing sometimes, right? 50,000, 75,000, whatever. Bathrooms. Oh, that one has a finished basement. Yeah, we don't have a finished basement. Okay, when you start going through, that's going to start planting the seed for them to say, okay, well, if that sold for 500, I'm definitely not going to get 550 because they got an updated kitchen, they got a full finished basement, they have a 3-car garage, we only have a 2-car, that type of thing, right? And then you go over the features too. You can see if they have a new roof, if they had a new furnace, if they had a new AC put in. All these different things you want to go and feature under all 4 or 5 of those listings so that they get a really good feel for what the market is bearing for that price. 12, Brian?
Yeah, so now you say to the seller, now after looking over these recent home sales, we can see a range of home silver tiers between the low end and then the high end. But you got to ask this question, where do you feel your home should be priced based on current home sales? You never want to be the one that says, based on the low end, the high end, I think you should be priced at this. Let them say the number to you and always give them a range. Never give them an exact number, right? And I always reiterate, hey, here's the data. This is why it's important really to bring a laptop and bring a presentation so they can see with their own eyes the condition of the competition. I said condition. The condition of the competition, and they can also see the numbers that you're talking about. It's not just your word of mouth or they feel like it's your opinion of their home, right? This is, I'm the messenger here. Don't shoot the messenger type of a deal. But based on this information that we looked at together, that's factual, right? I'm not saying the word factual, but they can tell that. Where do you think your house falls in this range? And then we shut up, you know? And if they still come with a higher number, a lot of times I've seen couples fighting over this, Willie, where the husband's like, no, it's not worth that. Look at, did you see that home? Did you see that?
Yeah.
You know, vice versa. And I just sit back. I let them sort it out amongst them. And depending on what they come back with, if it's, you know, you feel that it's within that range and it's marketable, hey, great. You know, then you go for the kill. But if they're still way too high or they're just not in touch with reality, you might want to push back, like Willie said, hey, remember when you mentioned the kitchen? You know, buyers see that, you know, so even if you want to get the high end, even if, you know, and we'll get into this when we talk about the prices, but I love using the appraiser as a blame, you know, someone to blame for prices. Hey, you know, if anyone can get that price for your house that's way above the range there, I know it's me and my marketing, but here's my concern, right? The majority of the people who buy it now are going to be financing. And when they finance a few weeks into the transaction, they're going to send out a bank appraiser who represents the bank, and they're going to look at the same data that we're looking at here today. And what's going to happen if they can't justify to the bank the value, the bank's not going to approve that person. And then I have to come back to you and tell you we have a stain on our shirt now going back on the market. The buyer is moving on somewhere else, unless we find a cash buyer. And in my opinion, I don't know about you, Willie, but anytime someone pays cash for something, they want what? Right?
Yeah.
They don't want to pay top dollar or above or whatever. In this market, we're seeing it, but psychologically, that works. So, and then I just kind of like shut up, and then I'll let you take it from there, how to close it out.
Yeah, they determine price, and a lot of times they'll say, geez, you know, before you came, I thought 550, Brian, but now that you're showing me all this, probably closer to 5, right? Those self-eliminate themselves. And then, like you said, Brian, you'll have some people that the highest price is 500. Well, I still think mine's worth 550. And I just ask them, okay, based on what I just showed you, how do you come up with that number?
And they don't think about the appraiser thing until you're sitting there and you actually say it. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, right? That it has to go through a process. And you know the toughest one with this, Willie, is sellers from out of market, meaning if they have a property here, like maybe they're, you know, a decision maker on a property or it's in a state like that. If they're in other markets like Connecticut, New Hampshire, like where the prices are higher, they're like, what do you mean it's only worth this much? So you have to show them the data so they could see the data and come to their own conclusion. Because sometimes you be perfectly right on spot and you tell them the truth, and they're just not going to believe you if they don't see it on the screen.
All right, so they agree. They say, okay, Brian, you know, you're right. You know, 550 is definitely not going to be there based on what we're seeing on here. Can we start at 500,000? And Brian says, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking kind of the same thing. 500,000 seems to fall in line with everything that we going on here. And then is asking that question. We went over our aggressive marketing program, and I feel very confident we can get top dollar for your home, sell it fast, and with the least amount of hassles. Are you ready to get your home listed? Ask that question. Are you ready to get your home listed? A lot of agents don't. What do you think?
Yeah.
Seems good. Yeah, seems good. Okay, great. Well, give me a call if you're interested, right? Or I'm going to interview, 3 more real estate agents. Okay, great. Go ahead and do that. Sometimes at that point, I may look to come back or do some more research for them if we couldn't get the right price on it. Or if I even know that another agent's coming in tomorrow and the next day, a lot of times I won't give them the price yet. I'm going to say, here's, based on the comps and based on what we're seeing, here's the range. But what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back and take a look at some more comparables and see if I can get a better understanding of price. I'll check in with my appraiser, see if there's anything else that I'm missing on here. And when's your last appointment? Oh, my last appointment's on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Okay, great. Can we come in on Thursday at 7, or can we come, Friday at 10 a.m.? And then I'll go over one last thing with you after some of the research, because you want to get in there last if you can. And if you know about them up front, a lot of times you say, hey, you mind having me come at the end? Because I want to show you how much more value that we offer and what we do more than the competition, right? There's nothing wrong with you saying that, right? I just want to show you how much more we do than the average competition. I'm glad that you're meeting with other people, but if I can come at the end, I really appreciate it. And you want to also say to them, I'm going to do a lot of work from now to the time that we meet, and I would really appreciate if you don't sign anything with anyone until we actually meet, because you're going to want to really see all the stuff that I show you on how we feel we can get top dollar for your home with all the aggressive marketing that we do, right? So don't lose the appointment, but also try to get at the end if you can, because by that time they're done with seeing agents. You come in here with your listing presentation that we're going to show you in a couple of weeks and all the stuff they have. They're going to say, all right, sign us up, right? And you're asking for permission. Hey, can I ask for permission here that you won't sign anything, right? Can I get your commitment that you won't sign anything from now until we meet? Because I'm going to do a lot of work, a lot of research, but it's going to be well worth your time to wait until you meet with me. Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna cross-reference. We have a pool of buyers in waiting. I'm gonna cross-reference your house to that pool. I'm gonna talk it up with other agents in our organization and in our network that are working with buyers that this might be a great fit for them, and that will help me give you a better idea of price. So again, if I could have your permission, I'd love to come back and share that information that I find. Now that I've seen the house, it's a gorgeous house. Like I said before, I shouldn't have any problem selling. I'm gonna go back and sharpen the pencil, and I'd love to come back and have a second chance to meet with you and go over that information.
Okay. All right. So that is the 14-step listing process. Follow it that way. Like Brian said, it's like a combo to a lock. And there are times that you're going to do the walkthrough and you're going to sit down and you're going to say, so Brian, what do you think about the price? And you're going to be like, oh, well, yeah, I got some CMA right here. Yeah, I'll go ahead and show you a couple things on there, right? Or, hey, the neighbor across the street sold for $550 last year, and we think ours is better than that one. And you'd be like, well, yeah, I actually pulled that information up here. Let me show you. Don't do that. That's not in the 14-step process. That's at the end, right? Or if they say to you, hey, Brian, what do you think about the price? Brian could say, you know what? I actually pulled up some comps, and I'm going to show you our marketing, and then pricing's at the end of my presentation. Be more than happy to show you. Control the interview. You control the interview. Don't let them control. What does Anthony Lamacchia say, right? You're the doctor. They're the patient. Exactly. Right? You're the doctor. They're the patient. You control the interview. Anytime I've won off pace, like Brian said before, I jumped on. I was so excited. Oh, here's the number. She didn't like the number. And guess what? She sat there with like this the whole time with her husband, disinterested in my presentation. She wasn't even listening. She was so pissed off at the price that I gave her. And she was right, actually. I actually pulled the wrong comps. The square footage was way off on the tax records. So I came in with a number probably about 75,000 less than what they actually sold for with another agent, because I didn't have the right information. And I was early on in my career, a house in Clifton Park. And I just, again, just talking, oh yeah, let me show you, all excited to show her the CMA without getting into all the other stuff. So
Yeah, as an inexperienced listing agent or a newer agent, intimidation is a real thing, right? And the way you offset that is with confidence. The way you get the confidence is with the practice. If you practice these 14 steps and you practice the presentation we're going to go through, that'll help you with the control factor. But if you don't have that confidence going in, you're easily intimidated. The seller's going to take over, and it's going to be very tough to convert.
Yeah. All right, Regina's got a great question.
Yeah.
And thank you for this question because it's something that actually we left out on this. Her question is, what if you come across come up with or can't come up with comps on a unique property? What resources should you use? And it's so true. Like sometimes when you get to where you're showing them some comps and like you said, maybe they're not the right comps or it's a price they don't want and they're still fixated on, no, I want 600 for it, right? And all the comps are showing 5.25. How do you get to that? And if you're too far apart, you don't want to waste your time listing an overpriced property only to have them beat you up over the next 2-3 months, spend all this time and money and marketing, and then lose it, expires and goes to another agent, right? So how do you get around that, Brian?
So what I would say is that, that's a great situation to come in. Looking at the data right now, you're right. Your house is special. There's not a lot of comparables to look at. See what I did there? Your house is special. It's a compliment that I'm throwing in there. Now, a lot of inexperienced realtors will give you a number, but you got to ask them to back it up with facts. Typically, we're as good as the data, and this is what we usually strive for. We usually strive to get 3 or 4 homes that compare to yours within a reasonable time period because that's the information a bank appraiser is going to present to a bank. If we don't have that, what I recommend we do is, and I'm not above to say it, is because I want to supply you with a good number, not one that's made up out of the sky or on opinion. I think you should get what's called a seller's appraisal. I don't know if you have a bank that you prefer or someone that you do, but I highly recommend, I think it would be a great idea. So let's get a bank appraisal now. And it's an asset that will work in your favor. Let me explain. You're going to spend a few $100s up front to make sure we're pricing correctly and not losing thousands on the back end. Because there's not enough data right now to come to a good conclusion on the multiple listing service and what we have access to, having a bank appraisal is a tool that you can use to not only price the listing and market the listing, but use it as a tool to negotiate if you get lowball offers, or you'll know if you have a great offer that's coming in based on the appraisal that you have in hand. But more importantly, even if we got a great offer without that appraisal, we still have to wait kind of on pins and needles for the bank to approve that loan for that buyer because we don't know if we're in line with an appraisal or not, what they're going to do. Appraisers are certified. They have different technologies or techniques, I should say, to explain to the bank that this is a legitimate contract and here's the value and have that bank approve it. So I'm not above highly recommending, to a seller to get a bank appraisal if that's the situation, if there's not comps to go with. Now, I'm going in a lot more detail, Willie, for the sake of this training. I try to shrink it down to the seller, but most sellers, they'll get that, right? Some agents think that they have to give the seller a number or they didn't do their job. We're only as good as the data. If you start to give an opinion or make a number and you're wrong, they're going to hold that to you, right? And I would say, I know that you're smarter, Willie, being a seller, right? Not just to take any number that a realtor throws with you and go with that realtor. We believe in backing up with facts. Let's get a bank appraisal. Now, I'll let you answer this question. What if they're hesitant to spend the money on appraisal? What would you do then?
Well, I mean, a lot of times they don't know what happens, right? Like, where's that go? And is it going to be reported now to the public? Yeah. But sometimes they just maybe don't have the money or don't want to pay it up front. And it's a great home. Price is way off. We can get an appraiser and that's going to come in lower. It's going to help you. I tell them a couple of things. It's going to help us get more money for your property. Like Brian said, right? Like an offer comes in, they lowball us. We have a current appraisal. We can go back and say, no, it really is worth $515. Here's why, right? To the buyer. That's number one. But sometimes you may have that. You go back and forth. And I say, listen, I said, you know what? I'll tell you what. I think an appraisal, because it's such a unique property and because it's such a great home, and I know it will sell with the right pricing, why don't we go ahead and get an appraiser in here? You pay for it. It's, your appraisal doesn't go anywhere. You own it, but it's a third party that's going to help us determine the right price on it. And like I said, we could leverage it to any other buyers that come in. But maybe it's going to be $500 or $600 for this appraisal that you pay up front. I'll go ahead and take it off the back end on the commission, and I'll pay for it. Right? I'll discount the commission.
Or even split it.
Or we split it.
Or even split it with them.
Yeah, if they give you a hard time, listen, 9 out of 10 times they're like, I think it's a great idea. I'll go ahead and do it. But there are people sometimes that are cheap. They don't want to spend the money. I said, I'll take it off. So really it's free for this other, you're going to list with us. We'll just take it off the back end on the commission and get this thing listed for you at the right price. Right. So you can do that and give them a credit at closing. Don't pay it up front. Do not pay it up front.
And lastly, Willie, some situations, they might need an appraisal anyways. Like if it's a divorce situation or an estate situation, you know, this will put you in a better position with the estate, or this will put you on a better playing field in a divorce situation, having this information. You're going to need it anyways. Your attorneys are probably going to request one anyways.
Yep. All right. So great question and great session. Hope you guys got a lot from it. 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing the, when is that? That's going to be on July 15th. So make sure you guys are there on July 15th, where we're actually going to break down the actual listing presentation. And again, it's a game changer. Like if you don't use a listing presentation, you're making a huge mistake. Huge mistake. And I see a lot of agents, even this year, Brian. I won't get into calling anyone out, but I know one agent's lost like three listings this year. Very competitive. And when I asked, you know, did you use a listing presentation? It was like, no, I got a lot of experience. I could just go in there, especially with people you don't know, right? Like it's not going to happen. It will, like if you want your own referral or a friend, and even that I like to do the presentation because I want to do a great job for them. It's great practice for you, and you know, it makes it a lot more thorough, so that expectation is there from the beginning. But when you're going up against someone you just met for the first time and you're competing against other agents, it's really tough to do it. So and not to have a listing presentation. So the July 15th, actually, I'm sorry, July 29th is going to be our listing presentation. July 15th, which is in 2 weeks, we're going to be going over actually understanding the CMA and how to price listings to win. So that's a very important class too, because again, you don't want to overprice listings and or worse yet, underprice them and lose the listings. So we're going to be going over that on July 15th. And then on the 29th, we'll actually go through the ultimate listing presentation for you guys. Okay. So that's all I got, Brian. Anything closing?
Yeah, you want to focus your attention to, in any relationship, the person that cares the least. And right now, inventory is so low. It's a seller's market. Sellers care the least. You want to focus your attention on the sellers and practice winning those listings. Because if you list it, price it right, the majority of the time right now, they're selling. They're going under contract. We're seeing all kinds of deals that are going up as a listing. And then you saw it today, really, in the meeting. Like we had a bunch of listings that we hit this month. While we look at our active listings, the number's not as high because they're selling quickly. So focus on the listings right now. They're not as hard as you think if you put in the effort and put in the work.
All right, sounds good. All right, everyone, thank you very much. Have a great holiday. Happy 4th weekend, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Take care.
Bye, guys.